Now, you do recall giving testimony at another proceeding on June 1st, 2023, correct?
Yes.
And of course, the same thing applied. You were under oath. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that it was a crime to lie under oath?
Yes.
In that proceeding? During the course of that proceeding, you were asked who was in the house and who you saw come into the house, correct?
Yes.
And during the course of that testimony, you admitted that you observed a tall, dark-haired male enter the Albert house that night, correct?
I believe that was in reference to ask it to somebody's brother in a pickup. I don't know if that was during.
All I'm asking you, Mr. Higgins, is did you say that? Did you say a tall, dark-haired male entered the house while you were there?
I said they might have.
Did you say they might have?
Yes.
We're not sure who did or did not enter the house. ATF agent really showing his observational skills over here.
Isn't it true that you indicated that a male showed up who may have been Julie Nagel's brother, correct?
I said might have, yes.
Right. But there was no question in your mind that a male did in fact show up, and you described him as tall and dark-haired, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You were asked, a male showed up where? And you answered, quote, showed up at the house that I didn't know. I think he was there very briefly. I was half paying attention to it. Question, did that male come inside the house? Answer, I believe he did. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So a male did come in the house that night, correct?
No, I said I believe he did. I wasn't sure.
Again, at the risk of perhaps belaboring the point, once again, this is an ATF agent who is hired presumably for his skills as a law enforcement officer, which might rely somewhat on his ability to observe things. Now, it could be that he wasn't able to observe things perhaps as well as he should, because according to earlier testimony that we reviewed, he had at least 4 drinks prior to arriving, and then he had an unknown number of drinks, but probably a couple, whatever a couple might mean. So perhaps he's not so sure, but it's not exactly encouraging. Was a guy there? Was a guy not there? Was he tall? Did he have dark hair? Did he exist at all? These descriptions are not particularly helpful if we're going to try to find the guy.
We can't find the guy. We can't find the guy.
You find that man!
Well, when you testified at the prior hearing, you were asked, so you saw someone else come? Question. Answer, somebody else. Yes. End quote. That's what you testified to under oath, wasn't it?
What does that grand jury testimony have to say,
Thank
man?
you.
Look at the top part that I highlighted. You also said that you only remember seeing that person come in briefly. And it looked like he was having a conversation with the 2 girls. Briefly, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how long was the person in there roughly, and you said it was quick. Less than a couple of minutes. I mean, it was quick, correct?
Yes.
And then you were asked what he looked like, and you said, I feel like they were a little bit taller, and he had dark hair, correct?
Yes.
I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good, I would call her. Wish I had a rabbit in a hat with a bat and a 6'4" baller.
So you testified that a tall, dark-haired male came into the house, at least briefly, in your testimony, correct?
Yes.
Approximately when in the timeline of events did that unidentified male enter the residence?
I don't know the time frame. It would have been while I was there.
When you gave your statement to the Massachusetts State Police, you didn't tell them about a tall, dark-haired male coming into the residence at 34 Fairview, did you, on February 3rd?
I don't recall.
Yeah, so that's a problem, right? Who was or was not at the house is going to be somewhat of an issue. And it all goes back again to these like inconsistent stories and inconsistent narrative about who was there, who wasn't there. And of course, just a friendly reminder, this is an ATF agent. His job is to, observe things and be a person who can observe things so that he can write them down and, charge people and potentially lead to them being prosecuted. And when he's asked who's there, at least initially, he leaves out this person as being there, but then later mentions him. Again, it's a problem with the shifting stories. And in isolation, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But when you consider all the different witnesses that the state has had, and you consider all their different testimonies, and you consider the number of times that the witnesses' testimonies have changed, including and up to in ways that are inconsistent with forensic data, and it's all happening over and over again, you can't help saying to yourself, this seems to be part of a larger pattern rather than just one person's forgetful memory. Could a person forget to mention something one time and then mention another time? Sure, but in accumulated form, it definitely seems kind of suspicious, a little suspect, weird, strange. Yeah, all right, let's listen to some more.
You were specifically asked by ADA Lally when you testified before the state court grand jury on April 28th, 2022, who else was present, correct?
Yes.
And you never mentioned a tall, dark-haired male coming into the house, did you?
No.
However, on June 1st, 2023, at this other proceeding, you were specifically instructed at the start of your testimony that it was a crime to give materially false statements in that proceeding, correct?
Yes.
And that's the proceeding in which you admitted that there was a tall, dark-haired male who came in the house. Yes or no? Yes or no? It was that proceeding.
Can you answer that, yes or no?
No, I can't, Your Honor.
Next question, Mr. Jackson.
Okay, we see the judge once again attempting to intervene in a way that seems to be very favorable to the prosecution. So in isolation, I can't really critique this particular comment by the judge. It's very difficult to critique any individual thing by the judge because obviously there are judgment calls and different people can look at things different ways. And from an appellate posture, when you're thinking about clear error or abuse of discretion or whichever standard you're using, you have to give a lot of deference to the judge. Now, that's true as it applies to any individual thing. And especially when you're looking for something like bias, you can't do it in the individual. You have to do it in the aggregate. Because what you're looking for is the aggregated delta between what should be and what is, which is not determined by which side they're ruling for, but determined which side should be ruled for. Because as we sort of discussed, if the prosecution should win 100% of the objections, then they should win 100%. So it's not enough to say, oh, the prosecution's always winning. That's not enough. You have to look at it and say, okay, what should be occurring and what is the delta between? And this is, again, not by itself that big a deal, but the judge is being active in a way that always seems to benefit the government's witnesses, always seem to be helping them out, and always seems to be favoring the state. And then in addition to the rulings and objections and other things that are going on in this case, it is more systematically compromised. So it's difficult to look at this and not say the judge is making what would be biased decisions when you consider them in their accumulated, amalgamated form.